Yeah, I mean, what struck me incredibly profoundly from the conversation and the sort of story you've been developing is this idea about trying to reclaim memory of the past and how that feeds into consciousness and consciousness of the struggle, because it was quite striking, and it's obvious when you consider it, but it's not until it was mentioned by Mike beginning that the second biggest protest in British history was a few years ago, was in the last decade. And I think it's very easy to forget that, and to forget that we're actually in moments where history can still be made. And it strikes me that, regarding the war, I mean, the war wasn't stopped, but it strikes me that the legacy that has left is incredibly deep and profound. The idea that 80% of the country, 70%, whatever it is, majority are against that war, that feeds into and sort of influences all the other struggles. And in terms of how it seems like the message coming from the book is things change and things kind of stay the same. I mean, they change because of sort of technology, things you're talking about, the way things organise, the strength of organised movements. But they stay the same because the fundamental injustices remain. And all those stories that we touched on tonight are unfinished business, in a sense. And what strikes me, we are in an environment where there's this mass consciousness against the war, and also in favour of street demonstrations. Also, Lindsay mentioned the John Carlos meeting on Monday, where there were thousands of trade unionists and activists, and it was incredibly moving meeting. Actually, the beating heart of resistance in this country exists in this kind of fragmented way, in the same way that history described it exists in a very fragmented way. And it strikes me the job now of the left is in the same way that we should be pulling together those historical strands to make a narrative. We should be pulling together all these disparate but incredibly dynamic, vital parts of the movement, because history is ours for the making at the moment, it strikes me.
You mentioned France earlier, and they've just elected François Hollande, and with Jean-Luc Mélenchon from the Front de Gauche getting 10%, which surprised everybody, although it obviously wasn't as much as the Front National, unfortunately got nearly 20%. I was wondering if you thought, it seems to me that, again, both, because I've listened to Mélenchon and Hollande, both of them actually used history to say we cannot carry on like this. We are a proud nation, we have a republican tradition, we have, liberté, égalité, fraternité, and they use that and the French people's knowledge of their own history. And I'm just wondering how we can, it seems to me, just a bit anecdotal, I'm a university lecturer on strike, that's long ago. I was talking to the caretaker in my, who was, shutting up when I was at work, and we were talking about the London election, and I had my, sack Boris kind of thing, and he said, "Oh no, I'm voting for Boris," and we were on strike together. So I think it's very heterogeneous, people's consciousness, and I just wonder how, also Greece, I've been sort of very interested in Greek elections, and I mean what's happening in Greece is a humanitarian sort of catastrophe, and people are trying to find ways of surviving and so on. We're not quite at that stage. Do you think we have to get, because in France they're not at that stage either, but they've managed to say, look, enough's enough, we're not going with this neoliberalism anymore. I'm just wondering, is there what could we create, a left movement? It seems a little bit difficult with the Labour Party. At the moment, maybe it will change, I don't know. You've got to speak. Sorry, it's a bit of a rambling kind of question, but what do you think?
No, I think the things you're saying is absolutely right, because it was clear in all the countries affected by austerity, which is all of us, there is a move, there's a polarisation of politics away from the mainstream parties towards, if you want to call it, the far left and the far right, and certainly Mélenchon, did very, very well, and although, as you say, it wasn't as much as Marine Le Pen. He's standing against Marine Le Pen in the north part of Calais. They think he will win. I mean, I don't know. I thought it was rather a gamble myself, but you know, people seem to think that he will be able to defeat him, which is quite cool. So I think, but what I think is happening everywhere in Greece, Syriza got an amazing vote, which is the collapse of the old parties and people saying we want an alternative. Now, I don't think we're at that stage in Britain, partly because there isn't that kind of party that, at the moment that could do that, but partly I think because the austerity clearly hasn't affected people as badly as in Greece or in Ireland and a number of other countries. But we're on the way. I mean, the retirement at 68 is a very serious thing. Every time they talk about investment, like the latest investment in nuclear power, just what we need, they're saying, you know, we're all going to have to pay for this. This will be on our electricity bills as well as being incredibly dangerous. So it's all moving in that direction. I think the real question is whether the left can organise itself. And if it can't organise itself into a party, it has to organise itself. You know, we can't agree over a party, which has been the case so far. We have to be able to organise around movements. And there's a big TUC demonstration on October 20th. I think we should aim, you know, proud as I am of having the biggest demonstration in.
Make it bigger.
Even proud of the bigger one against austerity, because that would signal the end of this government, or the beginning of the end of this government. So I think it's very important. But this is a more general point. See, the point you make about France and Greece, in a way, they've both got more political culture, you know, for historical reasons. Partly the occupation and civil war in Greece, partly the whole revolutionary tradition in France. Now, we don't have that, but we do have a fantastic tradition, as we find each other in the book. And I think this question of linking the tradition, you know, it's very interesting. There's a meeting that we describe in the book, which Karl Marx went to in 1863, about the American Civil War. And he was a great enthusiast for the North, the abolition of slavery, as were many people in Britain. And this guy gets up and speaks, and he says, you know, in the United States, no kings, no bishops. And there's huge applause from the audience. Now, that is going back to the English Revolution and to the 18th century. Those slogans go back 200 years. And, you know, people even today will resonate with some of the ideas, not maybe the English Revolution, but what happened earlier in the 20th century, what happened in the 19th century. There's a very strong consciousness against fascism, although, you know, it's all against racism, against all those things. And I think we've got to build on that, really, to, you know, to create that kind of movement here.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's never just that there's a kind of crisis and therefore a necessity to fight back, and that people necessarily do. It's not automatic like that. It's not automatic that when that happens, people look to the left. Those things have to be decided. Those things have to be fought for. They have to be organised for. They have to be created. The conditions might be there, but it doesn't always mean that people fight back. And what makes people fight back is not just the feeling that they're under attack. It's the feeling that if they fight back, they might be able to win. It's like individuals, you know, I don't know about you, but if I go outside tonight and wait at the bus stop, and some lunatic with a baseball bat comes hurtling down the road with them, evidently determined to do me serious physical damage, well, it's obvious that I'm under attack. But, you know, personally, I'm a coward. He's got a baseball bat, I've got two hands thinly covered with skin, and I think I'll leg it. You know, this is what happened to the whole working class during the Thatcher era. They got hit by a baseball bat and went unconscious. So it isn't automatic that you fight back. Now, if I have a baseball bat and Lunatic's got a baseball bat, well, odds are evening up. Maybe I'll stand there and slog it out. If he's got a baseball bat and I've got a machine gun, I'm definitely going to fight. I'm going to mow him down 50 yards away, no problem. So it's a question not just that you're being attacked, but that you feel that if you resist, you might stand the possibility of winning. And that's what the left is for. The left is for saying there is a chance of fighting, there is a chance of resisting, and if we do this, we will be better than if we don't resist. We might not win all we want, but we might do better than we will without resisting. And that really is the history of the whole book in many ways. You know, if John Milton hadn't fought in the English Revolution, things would have been different. If John Wilkes hadn't fought, things would have been different. If the suffragettes hadn't fought, things would have been different. If they hadn't got down there, the Marxes and the Larkins, got down to the great doctrine, it would have been And that's what we've got to hang on to, that what you do makes a difference.
I think that might be an appropriate moment, because the point being, make a difference. And the book's intended to show you how in the history of London people had made a difference. So this might be an appropriate point to ask people to thank you both and go and buy the book.